Hi, good evening, everyone. If everybody can take their seats. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. First of all, I'd love to welcome everyone. We have some fun recognitions and celebrations this evening. Roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Okay, if everyone can stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
And we do have Mr. Dusterhoff here. He's on the Zoom and he was raising his hand. He's now part of it.
Okay, so as I said, we have some recognitions and celebrations. That's why you all are here, not really for the board meeting, I'm sure. So we'd like to first start out with the St. Baldrick's Foundation fundraiser. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Light and her group of students. We have one on Zoom who is not feeling well, Braden, correct? And then before, I cannot remember all of your names.
We'll introduce them at this time. Thank you. It's easier if I talk in this so everyone can hear. My name is Lisa Light. I am the principal here at Ludwig. And tonight I want to recognize some staff members and students who had a great impact on our St. Baldrick's event this year. St. Baldrick's is an organization that works to conquer kids' cancer. So first staff member I'd like to recognize is Kristen Grahovic. She worked here at Ludwig, and she planned and executed the t-shirt sales and the open gym social. And I'm going to have her share a little bit more about what she did to help us.
Thank you. So our t-shirt sale, we sold 92 t-shirts this year, which is probably our biggest sale ever here at Ludwig School. And from those t-shirt sales from Custom Ink, we did donate $885 directly to St. Baldrick. So that was a huge donation on our total donations, which our students will tell you how much we raised in just a minute. And then our Ludwig Open Gym Social, we've been doing it. I had to try and think back, probably 7-8 years now. I lost track. But we had 140 students attend this year, which is our largest event we've ever had. I think it was great to have our students back in our building after hours, doing some things that were kind of normalcy and interacting and having fun. So it wasn't possible without, we had about 8 NJHS volunteers from Prairie come over and help us supervise. And we also had about 12 to 14 staff members that also came back at night to supervise. So without that, those people participating and helping us, the event wouldn't go on. Kids have the options of playing basketball, singing karaoke, buying concessions. They did some bowling in the hallway. They played volleyball. Our rock wall was open. We had some other floor games set up. And they just really had a good time. It was kind of just an after school way to come back and socialize and have a good time. And all of the proceeds, the $5 admission and the concession sales went directly to St. Baldrick. So that also added into our total.
Thank you. Scott Hagedorn. Mr. Hagedorn is a 5th grade teacher here at Ludwig, and he really is the one that led our students the whole way with our podcast, and I'm going to have him talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. This is our 6th year doing our Ludwig podcast-a-thon, and it's in case you don't know about it, it's a 5. I do mini podcasts in my classroom, usually every day for 2 to 3 minutes. And then one year I was like, you know what, we should just do this for 5 hours straight, just kind of see what happens. And every year it gets better and better. And really it's due to the hard work of the students. Like, these are my all-stars right here, but really it's everyone helping out, them saying, yeah, I want to do it, and volunteering for jobs they've never heard of, like executive producer and sound tech, MC, and it's just great seeing the students help out and just raise money for such a good cause. They're always so excited to help with this. This year, like every year it gets a little better. This year we had Mrs. Martinez helping us. We had it. It's still like an audio podcast, so it's all just audio, no video. But we even added video this year just so people could see, you know, so and so is pressing the buttons and all that. This before we never really had a way to recognize that. Now you can at least kind of see all that it takes to do like such a production like this. Not just one person talking. There's a lot of kids behind the scene working hard. So I'm really proud of all that.
I'm sorry, the last staff member I'd like to recognize is Nadine Martinez. If you stand up. Talk about someone that can get anyone to do anything, whether she's taking pictures or videos. We are so fortunate to have Nadine. And like Mr. Hagedorn said, she graciously volunteered to live stream, and Ludwig has a YouTube channel, and that way everyone had an opportunity to watch the podcast and see all the kids, so it was awesome. So if we could give a great big round of applause for our staff. Podcast, I asked Mr. Hagedorn, can you name some of the kids that really made a big impact for this podcast-a-thon to happen? And he happened to name, there are 5, one is on Zoom. But real quick, I want to introduce them, and I'm going to have them tell you from their perspective a little bit more about the podcast. So first of all, we have Leanne. You want to stand up for this wave? Right. We have Sophia Delat. Burnett. We have Lisa Electra. Rated Lego. Let's tell you.
Hello, my name is Leanne. I participated in the podcast-a-thon. The podcast-a-thon just wasn't an average podcast to tune into. It just started off by thought and it turned into words of inspiration. They were words of young minds made to inspire the young and the old. Many stepped in to help make the donation happen. Because of everyone's hard work, children's lives were saved.
Hi, I'm Sophia Delat, and I like doing the podcast-a-thon because of raising the thousands of dollars for the mission to find the cure for cancer. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Adrian Kernet. I am in Mr. Hagedorn's class. I participated in the St. Baldrick's podcast-a-thon because it was no ordinary podcast-a-thon. It was a podcast-a-thon that raised money for kids with cancer. This podcast-a-thon took planning and preparation, but it was nothing compared to what kids with cancer have to go through. So to take a part of this made me feel humble and happy, knowing my small part made a difference in someone's cancer journey. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Shalarchik, and I'm a 5th grader here at Ludwig. During the podcast-a-thon, I had many different roles. I was an executive producer, speaker, sound tech, and at the end, I was an MC. I personally thought the podcast-a-thon was a great opportunity because I'm a very talkative person and I could just talk on and on and on. Also, it was supporting a great cause, the fight against cancer. Our goal for the podcast-a-thon was $2,200. We raised $1,397 from the open gym. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Braden Clayco. For the Ludwig St. Baldrick's podcast-a-thon, I was in the cast twice. For the first time, I talked about football, and the second time, I interviewed our physical education teacher, Mr. Gold. I also was one of the MCs for the event. The donations collected during this fundraiser totaled $5,600. Somewhere around 60 students participated in the podcast-a-thon. I am so grateful that I could be a part of this great cause helping children with cancer.
Everything about our podcast-a-thon and St. Baldrick's fundraiser. Thank you to all of you for allowing the students to speak tonight, and I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you again, all of you. Fabulous. Okay, and moving along with recognitions, we have our volleyball team at Oak Prairie. So congratulations to congratulations to our Oak Prairie girls volleyball team for a great season, highlighted with their 4th place finish at state. So now we can. For Dash, do you need this?
I'm gonna give this to our 2 coaches. Well, I'm gonna have Mrs. Russell come on up here and talk a little bit about the volleyball season, but before she gets going, I just wanted to say congratulations to all the young ladies who participated. This year at Oak Prairie, our sports and activities have dominated, and I am very proud of all the students who have been involved. We have celebrated. Ms. Russell, why don't you come up and talk a little bit about that?
All right, so the girls volleyball team this year, 7th grade, it's a combination of 8 7th graders and 6 6th graders. They ended up beating a tough Summit Hill team to win the regional championship, who they lost to earlier in the season, so it was a very exciting win. And then followed that up with the sectional championship as well. The girls finished with the highest finish in Oak Prairie's school history, being the first volleyball team to finish in the Final Four. The final record for the year was 19-4. We are extremely proud of these all these athletes, and the girls that are participants of the team were Josephine Baranowski, Natalie Beauchanti,
Do you guys want to come on up? Yes, you do.
Anna Hyam, Quinn Hyam, Ella Holloway, Briar Jensen, Amelia Kruziak, Anna Lundstadt, Emma Madison, Gabby Para, Riley Reikosh, and Madeline Thompson.
We maybe I'll take a picture. I think we should do that for the St. Baldrick's too. Is this the?
That's the, yep, that's. the
Wow.
plaque.
Who wants to
Trophy.
hold this? All right. So you want to do it separately, and then maybe the board will do one. All right. All right, board. All of them are. And I'm sure parents know this, but my youngest is 16 and she used to play on Oak Prairie, and I miss the game so much. So as crazy as that season is, because it seems like they play games every day, enjoy it, because when it's no longer a part of your, your day, you really do miss it. Okay, so now we have our congratulations go to our Oak Prairie boys bowling team for a great season, highlighted with a 6th place finish in state. And
All right, I've got Mrs. Kowski here with us, bowling coach of the year, if I can say so myself, to talk a little bit about the boys season.
All right, so I have 2 of my guys here tonight. So I have 8th grader Riley Ambrosini. If you want,
come on up.
if you want to say hi. 6th grader Logan Martin. My other 2 are Charlie Mason, 8th grader, and then also Cooper Schreiber, who's an 8th grader, who are both 2 are both my baseball players, and they have a game tonight, so they're away, they're not here. But these 2, it was an honor to coach both of them. We had a really great season. Bowling for IUSA is a really short season in general. So we kicked it off. We had a sectional win. Big shout out to Mrs. Martin over there for running up and down the lanes, making sure that our score was higher than everybody else's. So it was really awesome. We got a kick out of it. And then we finished off state the following weekend in 6th place. So we had a really great season. I'm very proud of these 2 and our other 8th graders. Not only are they great bowlers, but they're also like great students, great men, like well-spoken. And Riley's gonna do really great in high school. Logan stuck with me for 2 more years, so but very proud of them, and we had a really great season.
All right, so how about, I mean, I know your whole team is in.
You can take my sectional back off the wall.
All right. Do you want to hold the volleyball one?
We flip it around.
I know. Okay, and now four.
Oh, everybody else. Oh, no.
I know.
There's your one. Shut up.
I do.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
I'm curious, what's the average of like of the boys? That is a thing, right?
For like on a team,
Yes.
they only allow you to take 4. 5 is the max, that's your adult, 4 is the max for boys and girls.
Okay, and then each bowler, do they have an average?
Yeah, Charlie means that he had the highest average of the year with 10th place in state individually. And then these, I don't know their average off the top of my head, but they were also like very high, so. Altogether, they did awesome.
Amazing, amazing, awesome, congratulations. Okay, and then finally, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Martin. We have recognition for Dorothy Evans.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to recognize Dorothy tonight. She's not here with us, but she really deserves our appreciation, and so I'm going to share a little bit about Dorothy. She's been a paraprofessional at Walsh for about 3 years, and by training, she's a nurse. So she's done some wonderful things at school. But the most wonderful thing she did a couple months, well, not even a couple months ago, about a month ago, she saved another student from choking in our building. So to stand up here and have this happen twice is amazing, but to have the paraprofessionals that we have in our building and the cognizance of which they do their job every day, and they are so observant and they are so caring about our kids. She deserves our thanks, our appreciation, and our gratitude. So well done, Dorothy.
This concludes the fun part. You guys can all leave. And then we will move on over to the media center and conduct the rest of the meeting. All right, thanks everyone. Okay, so I'm going to call us back to open session 7:24, Tuesday, April 19th. All right, so do we have a student report this month?
I do have 2 students reporting. MJHS is here, so.
Great.
I just speak into this.
You got it, Natalie.
Okay. The National Junior Honor Society has had a great winter and start of spring. This winter, we hosted our first hot cocoa social before school, and students were able to socialize with friends while enjoying hot chocolate and cookies. We had over 100 students participate in the event.
Here are a few things we've been up to. We have continued to help support other students during after-school SOS time. We helped out at the D92 basketball tournament selling concessions. We helped out at the St. Baldrick Social held at Ludwig this March. At the social, we helped play games and supervised various fun activities for their students. We continue to help at other after-school D92 clubs at various schools. Finally, we help new students by giving them a tour and being a friendly face when they start at Oakbury.
Coming up, we have our whole group service event at Feed My Starving Children in Schaumburg. All NJHS members are invited to come and pack food for hungry children across the globe. We are excited to be able to serve as a whole organization.
Cool. Great stuff, guys. Okay, your next
I
group.
also have student council representatives here to speak as well.
What are your names?
I'm Anna.
Anna?
Vincent Pasquale.
Vincent. Nice to meet both of you.
In the last 2 months, Student Council has done a lot and is going to do a lot in the upcoming month and the rest of April. In February, we had a Pop Tab drive by Ronald McDonald, and we collected 100+ pounds of Pop Tabs. We had a kindness challenge where we would do good things for rewards. During this, we also had a random act of kindness month where we would do daily activities to promote kindness. We also wore red on February 4th to support drug abuse awareness. We also did a lot more too. This is just some of the things we did.
In March, we had a week of IAR testing. So at the end of that week, everyone that wanted to put their name in a raffle ticket for money, and if you got picked, to pie the teacher of your choice. During this month, we also had a spirit week. In April, so far, we had a fun week of looking for carrot around the school. This was last week, and if you found it, you got a prize. This week, we are having a spirit week to support autism awareness. Next month, we will have a spring fling. Admission will be $10 and there will be food, games, and music and more. And all money will be used for future activities.
Can I ask what teachers got a pie in the face?
I know Mr. J was one of them, Mr. Barr.
Oh, you're Mr. J. All right. I don't know you as Mr. J. Okay.
I can't really name all.
Did Mrs. Forcash?
Yeah, she got tied too.
You did?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty brave. Tying the principal.
Yeah, and then I know Mr. Atkinson was also one of them, and I can't name the top or the rest of them off the top of my head. So
I bet that was fun.
yeah, everyone was gathered outside too on the hill, so it was like just about as crowded can be.
Oh my gosh. Wow, fun. Thank you. Do we have an AFT report? Students, if you want to leave, please feel free. We will not take offense.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Good evening. Real simple. We had a great meeting this morning with our committee working on stipends and the process, and it's probably one of the more productive ones we've had in a long time. So going forward, we're doing well, and hopefully within the next meeting or two, that should be wrapped up in a long chapter of a decade of not being moved will be coming to an end. So I appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then Sandy, do we have any public comments?
I have not gotten any green cards at all. No, I'm sorry.
So we will.
Okay.
So while they're just filling out that, I'll just read the public comments agenda. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to hear comments on topics listed on the agenda. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the agenda item that we'll be addressing. And then we will call the speakers up by name, and you'll have 3 minutes per speaker per agenda topic. And then all action consider, do I read that? All action consideration items? Or is that, no, just that?
Yep.
Just that, okay,
Correct.
perfect. That's it?
You did it correctly.
All right.
These are both non-agenda.
So
So that's
non-agenda.
later.
That's later.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. So did you both heard that? Okay, all right, just want to make sure. Okay, so we have administrative reports. We have Dr. Arnold.
Let's get repositioned here. Okay, My notes are included. One update, we try to at every board meeting have the most updated COVID metrics. In your document, it says click here to review the COVID metrics, but I do want to call your attention to the board book, which is available to the public. We do have our predicted numbers for tomorrow. I do want to call out Nurse Patty McGuire, our head COVID nurse, and I have been watching this for a good week or so, steadily increase a little bit, to some extent paralleling what we see in the community with a slight increase in numbers. So we've been watching that carefully. We've been looking for outbreaks. She's been talking with the Will County Health Department about do we or don't we have any outbreaks. We currently do not by their definition and advisement. However, I do want to point out that these numbers are based on tomorrow. So tomorrow hasn't happened yet, but if the numbers were ran today, we do have one category that bumps up to the beyond moderate risk, and that is the new cases per 100,000. Okay, that went from 72.7 to on April 6th to 105, and 99 is the cut point for that. 100 and above is that high risk area. So you have this, I believe board members have this in the board book. The public has this. These numbers could change, I would think, very slightly overnight. We'll have to see what tomorrow's numbers actually are for the county, but that would put us at the moderate risk level as of right now. And so it's not going to necessarily change our mitigation strategies in any significant way, but I just wanted to call that out, that we do continue to watch this every day, and that we are noticing that change that really goes along with the community. If you follow the news, this is not a surprise. We don't see there's any safety change for us, but it's something that we will continue to track. Once I have the firm numbers for tomorrow, I will send a reminder out to all staff that these are our numbers as of the 20th. And we're going to remind people that it's okay to wear a mask. If you want to wear a mask in school and you feel like the numbers creep up, that's a good thing for you to do. You can do it. If you don't need to, we're not requiring it. Any questions about numbers? Strategic priorities update. The information is linked. I'd be happy to go over any questions, but it's really a build upon from last month's meeting. Related to that, we are wondering, and we will be making a decision within the week, whether or not we can reschedule the May 3rd DLT meeting. Typically, that's a meeting where we'll prepare some metrics, but we don't know if everything will be ready by then. And we're wondering if it's better use of teacher and staff time to just do that work at our June district leadership team meeting, which is a full day, and then give the full report to the board at that point. Does the board have any questions about that? There's no significant change, and we're on a good course for all the strategic priorities. Math audit update is included. Be happy to answer any questions, but we are moving forward. The math consultant did spend the day in the district visiting classrooms last week. Got some good eyes on learning and to see what instructional strategies we were using. And she's giving that report to the alt tomorrow at our meeting. Diversity, equity, inclusion, our district-wide PD continues. Our next session is coming up on May 4th. There's information there. D92 golf outing, just a reminder on that. Those are reminders, but there's one other piece I had about, why am I not seeing? Summer school. So summer school, we had looked at not needing that, but as we listened to the principals talking about their concerns around some tier 3 student needs for next year, they are already wondering, where do I need to get supports for next year for certain kids who need tier 3? We said, you know what, let's not wait till next year. Let's see if we can put together a very targeted summer school for those students that have that need. Invite them. We're close to making sure we have the staff to do that, but that's voluntary. You need to make sure we have teachers to do that. So we're looking to run that in conjunction with the extended school year, summer school, which is already running. And so we are holding all of those at Oak Prairie. Am I right? Oak Prairie. So I just want to give the board a heads up. It's a rough plan right now, but we think it's proactive. Instead of waiting and giving more intervention next year, we want to see what we can accomplish with some of these students over the summer and minimize the gap for them going into their next grade level. And I will bring back a plan with more details at the May board meeting. Looking for approval of that. And that's all I have for my report.
You. We have Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
All right.
Mr. Bletchley.
Thank you. So in the board packet is my memo for tonight. There are several items just to draw everyone's attention to. First off, just being construction, as you've just walked around the building, you know we're underway. We anticipate foundation work beginning in the next 2 weeks. An update to what is in the memo. We were approved today from the city of Lockport with a building permit, which is fantastic. It was a different zoning process that we had to go through. And so now with that being approved, we'll actually be able to do a little bit of work with the island that's in front of Ludwig and some other things that were just holding us just a little bit, but we're still perfectly within the plan timeline at this point. As you can see, also then from the board packet, there was a great deal of mitigation that happened over spring break. We've got the mobiles in place. So really all of our staff is really kind of acclimated to the new environments, and we've been able to really support them with that adjustment. So some pictures for everyone's benefit there as well. A couple other updates. The facility committee meeting that we've got planned is going to be May 3rd in the morning. So yeah, that's Adriana and Jim who sit on that committee. And that work is really to take the work that we've done within the long range plan, the 5-year facility plan, but really tackle some smaller projects that we have that sort of fall underneath that. And I did just provide an example of what we're talking about there. Some other items of note, you may have seen the governor's signing of the act for sick and COVID days. So right now, the business office is in the process of verifying folks who had sick time for 21-22. The act allows people to be credited back those sick days that they used as long as they have their vaccines, as long as they have their booster shot. So we're in the process of validating that information. And then we also got our health insurance renewal rates that you can see in the board memo. And then lastly, I did provide and have done over the last couple months a utility dashboard just to show some trend analysis actually of just what we're spending on utilities, just for your benefit. Happy to answer any questions related to any of those topics.
I have one question. On
Yes,
here, you
Adriana.
just had the school lunch thing. Were we looking at an amount for that being presented at the May meeting?
Yes, so I'll be bringing back a recommendation in May. So the nice thing that we've been under because of COVID was school lunches were free across the board. And without that legislation being passed, we're still, there's still some possibility that something could happen at the 11th hour, but we do need to plan for rates, and I'll be bringing that in May.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And that
Dave,
concludes
on
sorry.
the insurance cost. So where do we stand compared to last year with the insurance?
So we've been very lucky over the past several years. We've seen slight single-digit increases, less than 3%, just because of increased rates and keeping up with the insurance increases. This year for the HMO is going to be fairly significant, I would say, compared to what we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years.
But it's because the last 3 or 4 years, the HMO has been relatively low in comparison to everything else.
That is part of it. It's also just the cost of business and just the cost that we see within the HMO plan as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Director of Curriculum, Mrs. McCluskey.
All right, good evening. I just have to share with you that students in 3rd through 8th grade took the IAR, the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, in March. And 5th and 8th grade students took the science assessment in mid-April. And we're going to continue on with our fast pitch benchmarking in May. happy to answer any questions.
Just one thing, Dr. Arnold or Mrs. McCluskey, I took a look at, I know some of the neighboring schools have like the IAR and that on their website. Is that something we plan to do? I quite honestly, I don't know if it was done in the past.
Sure.
So that's my fault for not knowing, but I just was curious.
We can. There aren't plans to put that specific assessment on the website. However, all of that is accessible to the public through the Illinois School Report Card site.
Right.
So they could, that is available to the public right now. The way I've done it in the past is as we look at our strategic priorities to create a public facing dashboard or scorecard. There are two different things, but that's the place I would put it on a website. If we had a dashboard or a scorecard measuring different assessments or other metrics, not too different than our strategic priorities, then that would be a public facing document you could put there. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. Once they are out of, call them when they're locked down until October 31st. After that, we're free to publish those. So in an indirect way, they are on our website to the extent that we've reported them out in board presentations. That is on the website, but we don't have a specific. If that's something the board's interested in, I would, if a parent called me and said, where do I get this? I'd point them right to the Illinois School Report Card. That has much more information that they can really play around with on their own.
I mean, I just know historically, D92, especially feeding into, the high school does relatively well. So I would think that having something on the website, scores and stuff is nice, but I don't know if I'm the only one.
It's intriguing.
Yeah, there's no reason to or not to. It's really, we can definitely include a section for assessment results.
Okay. Yeah. All right, great, thank you. Mrs. McClure, you were done? Yeah. You were finished, okay. And then we have finally Director of Technology, Bill, Mr. Wachowski, sorry.
Either way is fine, thank you. As far as for my report this month, a few different things. One of which is infrastructure update. The big piece we've been working on this year, and I've been talking through the course of these meetings this year, is cleaning up a lot of our switches and making sure our environment is a little more concise. And through the course of this year, we've actually removed 28 switches from the environment, which is quite a lot. But we haven't lost any functionality either with that. In the notes, you'll see I have two different maps in there. The first map is showing where all the red is where switches were previously, and then the map below it now shows the current map, how it looks. So we made everything more concise. We slim things down to make sure it's actually easier to maintain, make sure everything's updated, and we have what we need. You don't have to have superfluous things everywhere, taking up power and resources that way. The next big piece is the Future Ready framework, which has been a continual process. We've been working with Tilt and also through the admin team. We've been doing the different gear surveys to both in preparation for doing large pieces of it, and also the Tilt team's been doing the stakeholder gears, which is kind of just getting the baseline behind it all. And once all the different gears are completed at the alt level, then we'll have a good report to start with to kind of say, okay, where we're starting from, and then we can start building off of that to the next level of the Future Ready plan. And then thirdly on the thing here, I have about the phone system. The phone system, I'm looking to enhance this summer with a new phone system through Rival 5, as I'm looking at right now. And it's a cloud hosted system, and it'll be brand new phones for the offices, the classrooms that have phones currently, and the different conference rooms, stuff like that. It'll go good with the new edition, but also it provides the newer feature set of phones, a fully cloud-based hosted solution for easier maintenance, and just gives a better overall abilities. Like one ability you get with this is the phones themselves can be programmed to control the intercom system. So if the teacher's in a room or a principal room need to call the intercom, they can just push a button on the phone in that classroom. They actually call the internet system that way for safety purposes, stuff like that. And there's a lot of features they offer down the road as well. Some cost-saving features is it can get us off the old POTS lines. POTS lines are, for those who don't know, are the old copper lines that often were run between school districts and your phones in your home, you still have pop lines in some cases. Well, that's a technology that's slowly being phased out by many entities. And because they're phasing out, it's costing a lot of money to keep them alive. That'll give us a tool to make us where we don't have to be on POTS anymore. It'll be all web-based, will be all internet-based. So it won't be an issue anymore as far as having to have a POTS line and the extra cost of that. Plus, just overall, we'll have a new phone system, we'll have newer, concise, better systems to control it all and remap things and make sure our users are mapped correctly, and just have newer phones that have better sound quality, better screen quality, stuff like that. And then the one last item I have is the instructional devices report. I'm looking for a device refresh plan, actually. This summer, I'm looking to do a larger device refresh just because the district has not had one in a while, to be honest. The teacher devices are aged, the student devices are aged, and just to finish up, also working with Oak Prairie and getting them fully up to 1-to-1 with Chromebooks.
Bill, do you want to share your screen
Sure.
on there so it's part of the recording?
Sure, let me pull up the thing real quick here.
I just gave you authorization to do that. There you go. Thank you.
No problem. So my device, so look here, so let's get it nice and pretty. There you go. Slideshow. So my device refresh plan for this year is based off the core values once that we talk about actually in mission itself, which is around collaboration, critical thinking, effectifications, a growth mindset, and a growth mindset. And these all parts are two of the perseverance, respect, and responsibility. And these are all focused around technology as well. Because with the collaboration and critical thinking piece, that talks a lot about with stuff in the middle school right now with the Chromebooks, where they're doing the collaboration with devices, they're doing a lot more writing and communicating with them in there. But also it's a lot of creativity, which comes to some of the critical thinking pieces they do at the lower grade levels. And also looking for as we're planning as do more refreshes in the future with devices. Now, as far as devices for this coming summer, I'm looking to refresh out the K through 2 with new iPads. One, because they're used to the interface, and also they offer a lot more primary literacy applications for Apple at the current time. And also, as I mentioned earlier, I'm looking to also continue to refresh at the middle school with 6th grade Chromebooks. Because right now the 7th, 8th, right now the 6th and 7th grade have them currently, but as they move up to a grade, it'll be 7th and 8th grade. So the 5th graders graduate up into 6th grade, we'll get them new Chromebooks, the whole building will be Chromebooks for next year. As far as teacher devices go, the last teacher refresh was in 2017. So the devices are a bit aged. And the teachers currently use MacBook Airs, and I'm looking to refresh with the same. We're looking to refresh with devices. These devices will work with currently in the classroom, which is the Apple TVs. And here's what teachers are familiar with currently. So there's no huge change for them right now as far as curriculum wise or use wise. There's no big training curve. So it makes it easy for them to get new devices in and get configured and everything else in time for being in the school year. Administrative devices as well, they also vary ages, going back to 2016. And I'm also replacing those with MacBook Airs as well. There's also for some custodial staff, some tech staff, and some nursing staff as well, the fitness category as well. Another piece too is projectors. I'm looking to do one we're working this summer to do a gym refresh, not even refresh, a build up basically of projectors in the gyms with powered screens and hook up to the school sound system in the gyms. One for bigger presentations like we had today in the gym, but also like for when we do like teacher presentations, or if the gym teacher wants to use it just for showing heart rate monitor scores or an interactive activity video on the screen, we can still do that with their kids. Also looking to also refresh walls this summer. Start doing a building refresh, hopefully year by year, so we can slowly refresh those out because those are aged as well. But the Walsh ones are oldest fleet right now. I'm looking to refresh them with laser projectors actually, because one, lasers will fire up faster, they'll last longer, and they require less maintenance. As far as overall costs, these are estimated costs right now, but we're looking at teacher devices around 143,000, admins around 15,000, student devices are 150, and 6th grade Chromebooks would be about 75,000. That's including the warranty with the Chromebooks. Areas we're still looking at right now are refresh plan for grades 2 through 5. That's something we still got to discuss yet with the teachers, with tilts, with admin for next year to see what we want to go, how far we want to go with that route. as far as continue to refresh the projectors, what buildings we're going to do next, cost-wise, stuff like that. Additional technology training for staff, because while we've seen technology, teachers are using it, they could use more experience with it. They can see how they can be more collaborative with it. They can get more experience and bring it into the curriculum. Looking at DACA cameras and refreshing those out over a span of time. And also there's more paraprofessional refresh plan as well, because the paraprofessionals are on all different series of devices. Some are on iPads, some are on very, very old MacBooks. So it's trying to figure out, okay, what's the best device for them as well, and what can we do to bring them up to having the same device as everybody else has, or at least a device that's common to all of them, so they can use them more effectively within the classroom and with the students. So basically for summer 2022 right now, we're looking at a K-2 student device refresh with iPads, a grade 6 refresh with Chromebooks, admin and other staff refresh, teacher refresh, a wall projector refresh, and a gym projector install. And then for 2023 projector right now, looking at doing the device refresh for the aides and paras, a contained building refresh with projectors, and also a grade 2 through 5 student device refresh. Any questions?
I have two.
Greta, please.
Do you anticipate any supply chain issues?
That's why I'm trying to bring this thing a little sooner to the board, so we can maybe get approved, hopefully maybe May, so I can get things rolling in place. Even if there's a supply chain issue going in slowly, when I take in devices away from the teachers or students right away, so some of the devices they'll currently have in place. And just as they come in, we'll format them, give them to students as we need.
Okay. And then is there like an exchange program so that when you do the swap out, is there
We
a
tend to,
discount or a cost offset if you turn back in the old devices to recycle them?
somewhat, yes. Since these devices are older, we're not getting as much money back. If you did like a 3 to 4 year refresh, you get a little more money back on it. But we'll still get some money back for it. We always do recycling every year. And that's part of what you get money back for is recycling purposes. Like we did this year, I think we got like, it was like 3,000 or 4,000 this year from recycling purposes from devices we freshed out this past year. So we always get some money back. We're doing that way.
Yeah, I was just curious what they would offer and to ensure that we were being green and recycling them.
So Bill, having been here in 2017 when we did the last refresh, one of the questions I had back then was, how do we start doing this as more of a cyclical event so that we're not doing a single I mean, it's necessary. There's no question about 6-year-old iPads are and/or MacBooks are just at risk now. So this is a question I asked. How do we start a cycle of every 2 years we're replacing a portion instead of waiting until this point?
That's actually a very good question. And I actually was trying to iron that out with the tech team earlier, actually last week. That's when I'm starting the K through 2 first in a way. Because this way you can start with slowly building them into it. Then next year, then 3 through 5. And so you can slowly kind of build that refresh out. And then in the following year, once the second graders are done, those then be transferred, those iPads, and what is at least what I'm thinking, is we move to the teachers, because the teachers need to refresh their iPads for their classroom. So then we'll have the new incoming people get that new incoming kindergarten will get fresh iPads that following year. Then you have first, second, and you'll have then you begin the same thing at the 3 through 5 level. We bring in the new devices next year, and then slowly build that device refresh that way. So you start building in that yearly cycle plan instead of being, okay, let's buy 500 devices at one time or 1,000 devices at once, because to me it's not sustainable, and it's just also very hard to maintain that for imaging, supply chain, all that. So I'm trying to slowly build that in, but unfortunately, just because the way things are done in the past, it'll take a little while to set that up the way I'd like it to, but it's kind of that is my plan.
All right.
You are
Well,
doing the projectors too, though. as
Yeah,
well.
correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, we're
I
starting.
just wanted to make
yeah.
sure I understood where your thinking is going, because again, not only is it an overhead cost, but it's a staffing issue that, your staff is literally overwhelmed because there's just going to be a massive amount of new devices that have to be initialized, loaded with software, and that's a tough do in a summer. So just again, verifying that you've got a plan, you've got a vision. That's what I want to hear.
So what are we doing currently for aides and parapros? And what are we currently doing for them?
Aides and parapros are kind of a mixed bag right now. Some have iPads, some they have actually the older generation of MacBooks that the teachers had previously. So it's kind of really a big mixed bag right now of what they have. Actually, when I did some training earlier with them, showing them how to use Google and stuff like that, and they're having so much trouble because the age of devices were all different, or the devices they had with them were all different. So it's trying to get them, I'm trying to find a way to get them on one device that's common to all of them, and then playing that out and seeing what device would best fit them. So we can say, okay, this is what everybody's getting from, even playing field. So everybody has the same thing. They can communicate evenly, they can work evenly and work with the students as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So to just kind of piggyback on Matt's, so the paras and that, is that for this year?
No, that'd be the following year.
So if it's kind of causing more chaos for them, could that be something we could entertain this year?
I mean, it's possible. I was just trying to budget things out to give a little more room. I mean, it's definitely possible. We can do some more research on it and say, okay, maybe we want to use this device or this device. It's definitely possible. I was just trying to plan it out for more next year.
No, I understand that, but I'm just thinking if it's really kind of causing.
Yeah, if they've got the oldest devices
Right.
and they're such a diverse,
Right.
If they're having problems because the operating system either won't load correctly or won't run correctly on the device, that makes their day a lot more difficult too.
I mean, I just know our paras do so much, for our teachers and students and that. So I would almost like to see if you can maybe do a little bit of, research and at least kind of see where we'd be at. To see if we can add that to this year. It sounds like it's more of a priority, and that. So, and I just wanted to say, thank you. It was great content. What you presented. So thank you. And I think I just had a question of grades 3 through 5. So I know that's going to be for 2023.
Correct.
What are we thinking iPads for them, Chromebooks, or is that what is being discussed?
That's gonna be discussed moving forward. I don't want to commit either way on that.
No.
I have my thoughts on it, but I want to make the decision brought from the teachers. That's it's being driven by me, because it's them gonna be using the device with their students. And I'm gonna try to tie to curriculum, tied to the technology plan. So I'll be kind of meshed together as one piece. So it's not gonna be just, oh, we're going this, but it doesn't match over here. But that's gonna be kind of process of the whole next year is talking with that and figuring out, okay, well, what device works best for this grade level? Where does that fit with technology standards? Where is it where the District 92 is going?
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. This may be just a very non-tech guy question. Is there an issue with all of the kids being on Chromebooks and using a Windows-based device and having teachers on an Apple-based?
No, and actually not at all, really. Not really, because most things, as far as the software goes, they use Clever for a lot of their software to sign into it. So I pretty much, and that's a single sign-in solution. So if you have a Chrome browser or a Safari browser, you're in like that.
And the Chrome app or the Google apps and all that work just fine.
Oh yeah, they're Google
There's no
actually.
issue there. And
Actually, been probably one more solid apps this year. A lot of the Chrome apps we've had this year, because like with the testing this year, the Chromebooks have performed stellarly on the testing this year.
Any other questions? No? That's great. All right, moving on to board action items. So I need an approval, right, for consent agenda as presented, unless we have some discussion.
I'd like to remove the retirement personnel pieces for Ceramic and Sinram from the consent agenda and move it down to, so that we can discuss it in closed session and then act upon it after closed session.
Okay, thanks, Matt. That was going to be a discussion for me. I kind of wondered why they were on there. So, okay, so we're scratching that.
I'm sorry, which two names?
Shannon Ceramic and Stacy Sinram.
Got it. Thank you.
Not scratching, just moving it.
Moving
down
it
to
to-
the action.
Table till after close?
I wouldn't say it's tabled, it's just being moved to action,
Okay.
not
Thank you.
part of consent.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. All right. So with taking that out of the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve?
Dapke.
Washington.
Okay, roll call.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Capkey,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Slice,
Yes.
Percola,
Yes.
Dusterhoff.
Yes.
Okay, and then we have board action items. Staffing for 2022-23.
Yep, so this is, the board last month approved the positions. This month are the actual placement of individual staff members in the positions. I do want to note, and we try to be really transparent with any changes. So if you look under the 22-23 schedule, you'll see my glasses. Changes from this year to next year. K5 LBS ones, we're going from 9 to 8. 6-8 LBS ones, we're going from 12 to 11. PE health, we're going from 9 to 10. That's an increase of a section of a PE at Reed. We're adding also a reading specialist at Reed. The permanent substitute, I'll talk about later in the meeting. So right now, that's a 0. You are not approving permanent substitutes, but I do have a line on there that I'd like to talk about under new business later. But you are not approving that. It's just on there as a placeholder. That's why it says 0. That's not my recommendation that I'll bring forward next month, but it's what we have right now. So I just want to be clear that although that's highlighted, you're not approving anything with the permanent substitute position. And then for additional transparency, we just have any positions that are open included in there and what positions were not being replaced for next year. And as a result of these changes, there are no reduction in forces as far as a RIF of any staff for this. And I do want to call out, just to avoid any confusion, under staffing needs at the very bottom, 22-23. I did note permanent substitutes, and I am looking to recommend 4, which I'll talk about later in the meeting. That says math, but I don't know why math is there. Permanent substitutes. That is pending board approval in May. So once again, that's not something I'm asking you to approve tonight, but I'm forecasting what we'd like to do come the May board meeting. Any questions about staffing?
Have the teachers been, those that might be up this year, have they been asked to come back next year? Has that process been gone through? With maybe those that only had a short contract? Or were
We don't
hired?
have, so we have none of those this year.
Okay.
Last year, we had several because we increased our numbers with COVID.
Yep.
And we created very small sections, but we released all those individuals. We actually hired a number of them back. But that was really a one-time thing because of COVID. That is not something we do every year.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that
Yeah,
affected
no,
it
we
ongoing.
aren't that district. That's the one time in my whole career that we've done that, but it was because we got classes down to sizes of 15 because of COVID. And those individuals knew that it was a one-year contract, but we don't like to do that.
Okay.
I have a question on with reducing LBS positions. Is there something we can attribute to the dropping numbers in special ed? Is there, that's not a real common trend, and kind of curious as to how we're doing that. It's a good thing, but.
So yes, if you look at the enrollment for the junior high, and the enrollment's on the first page, over the past several years, you've seen that declining. The classes at Oak Prairie have been smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's not that, yes, we have fewer students who need those special education services. However, the number of students in Oak Prairie's enrollment has been steadily declining as we've graduated out those larger classes. And then the other reduction is actually here at Ludwig. And there are literally no students for that PEX program right now for next year. I think this year we're down to just a handful, and they are all moving to the PEX program at the junior high. And barring, and we checked the numbers as of even this morning, I confirmed that from Ms. Skensos, that we're still at zero, and we are still at zero. So that was someone who had resigned, and we're just not replacing that individual.
No further questions? So can I get a motion to approve action items staffing 2022-23?
Dusser off.
Sandy, Matt, and Alyssa. Okay, roll call.
Twice.
Yes.
Pergola,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Dusterhoff.
Yes.
Okay, board discussion items. We have board policy updates, first reading.
Just as a formality, do you want to note that we're going, I guess, do you want to note again under action that we're going to talk about those two individuals in closed session, and we intend to come back and take action after closed session?
Okay.
On the two we moved, just
Okay.
clarity.
All right.
Okay. Anybody think that we forgot about?
Okay, all right.
Board discussion. We have just the first reading of policies. There are a series of interwoven policies that needed to be addressed. These are all from the press issue number 108, but it's really anchored in policy, I want to say 660 has some significant changes in it. It's going to take some time to address that, and it'll probably take not just the May and June board meetings. We hope to finish it up by then, but it may even spill into August. So this is a set of policies that are laying the groundwork for changes that are related to policy 660. Be happy to answer any questions, but they are here and they're redlined for the public and the board's review. And these obviously went through the policy committee earlier this month and will be brought back for a second reading in May is the target.
No questions? Okay, then moving on, I'll defer this, Matt, to you. Board of Education self-evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, we've had it on the agenda. I think we'll keep it on the agenda as we continue to work through it. But I think there's not much about it tonight. But as we work through closed session tonight, I think some of that will bear fruit towards board self-evaluation and some of the other pieces that come with that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Unless somebody had anything, but that was my.
Anyone?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. All right, old business, our demographic study results.
Yep. And so I can give some highlights. I think that came up at the last board meeting to kind of go over that and give some highlights. I'll be happy to. Let me know if I breeze over anything too much, but this is all also available for the public. So this was completed. I can say in a nutshell, we aren't looking at any significant increase in student enrollment. So that's the one takeaway that I think was most important for us. The reason that's important is as we were looking at the building projects we have going on, we wanted to be cognizant of needing to increase classroom space wherever we could take advantage of that. We do have, with the construction plans, because we're rearranging office space, getting conferences out of classrooms, we are going to overall in the district gain a few classrooms. The one pressure point I would still note for our district is Walsh. If we had a couple more classrooms there, I think depending on how our kindergarten enrollment goes next fall, you could make a case in a year or two for doing something unique there, but can't just in a year slap on a classroom. So we're looking at that very closely. Back to the demographic report, really just a note that I'll go over the executive summary quickly, that over the life of this forecast, a forecast is different than a projection. And this report does spell out the assumptions that are laid out for this. I should also note, this was done in conjunction with all of the Lockport districts feeding into the high school. So we did this as a collaborative. We are looking at our lifespan replacement to be less than, so it's 1.95 versus the replacement level of 2.1. So that's part of the not growing piece. Watching the in-migration of the district, we're looking at 18 to 24-year-olds moving off to college and other things as one large group leaving. And then we look at the 70+ age group as another significant group leaving. We do think that the elementary enrollment will slowly increase over the next 10 years, but nothing that when it's spread over across grade levels is going to impact sections significantly. Number 9 really talks about the total district enrollment is forecasted to decrease by 4 students in the next 5 years. Okay, so I know that sounds funny when you spread 4 students over 1,400. It's in the noise. We do think that there will be a slight uptick after 26-27 school year. That's the forecast by a slight number. We're talking 77 students in that time period. So once again, nothing that's going to significantly impact our enrollment down the road. With that, I can go through any introductory pieces that gets more into the data sources. I could talk about the assumptions if anyone has questions. I think that at least to highlight the assumptions, they're talking about looking at the economy. There's some things that if you follow the economy closely, it's a little haunting. This was done finished in January, I believe, before these things were happening, but they're talking about what's happening with the GDP contracting, and if it's contracting greater than 1% per quarter. If it's looking at note in B, interest rates reaching historic lows, and then as long as they stay below 4.5%. As of today, last time I checked, they're above 4.5%. So these are all assumptions that went into the data prior to January, saying if these things change, it might impact things. We don't know if that's positive or negative. Subprime mortgage practices aren't, as far as I know, on the radar. Foreclosures not exceeding 125%, that's not a current problem. Unemployment is an assumption that they took into consideration, also not a current issue. It's assuming steady student transfer rates, and we don't change our policies towards that, which there's no anticipation of that. J, the inflation rate for gasoline will stay below 5% per year for the 10 years of the forecast. We all know where that's at. And so let's see, it talks about businesses remaining viable. Lockport, Homer Glen is growing as far as that goes. N talks about assuming that no charter schools come into play. We aren't aware of that going on, but that's another assumption that they're taking into the numbers. Housing turnover rates remaining at the current levels. That's what we still anticipate. Says the district will have, it assumes the district will have at least an average of 40 new single-family homes constructed per year over the next 10 years. So when we see new subdivisions going up, you might be inclined to think, oh, we might need to react to that. These numbers already take into assumption that we will have about 40 new single-family homes being built each year over the next 10 years. That's accounted into the numbers. The methodology is there for anyone who's really into data. And then I would probably, the next relevant page, draw the board's attention to the final page in Appendix D that really lays out the forecast, and you can kind of see where the numbers are going. That line that has total K-8 is probably the one I would draw your attention to, and you can see the year-to-year change. Some of this, it goes back to what Grant was asking earlier about the junior high numbers. You can see if you look backwards and then forwards, how our junior high enrollment, we've been just graduating out some of those larger classes. Be happy to answer any questions.
Does this take into account homes that have decided to go the homeschool route? Like, were we
It
impacted
doesn't-
by that at all?
It doesn't address homeschool. When I gave them the enrollment numbers, it was in the midst of COVID. And we did track for them and give them students who had withdrawn to homeschool during COVID because of the learning model or whatever they were either wanting or not wanting. And then we tracked how many of those students did return this year. And so that was provided. And there's still a small handful that have not returned that we're not sure, but it's not a big enough number to impact sections across the district.
Okay.
They did talk about, one thing I don't know that I mentioned, but it also talked about private parochial schools and assuming that's all constant. We're not expecting anything to open or close as far as I know. So we're expecting that to remain steady.
You put on as private school and homeschool attendance rates will remain constant. So I think they just lumped homeschooling with.
Oh, so
private
homeschools,
school.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
But we did give them the specific numbers. We don't track every homeschool student, but anyone who was new during COVID,
Mhm.
we did supply that.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, moving on, new business. So new position of permanent substitute teacher.
Looking for board guidance here. We, as I've mentioned in my board notes, over the past year plus, we've done a pilot with, I call them semi-permanent. We've reevaluated this on a bi-monthly basis all year. So we've assigned a full-time daily substitute to each building throughout this year. And I think we started at principals at the end of last year. I don't think it was just this year, was it? I'm looking for a head nod. I don't remember. It's been at least this year. I think it's more. So every 2 months, we get together prior to the end of the deadline and assess, is this individual still being used fully, day to day, things like that. Every time it's been a re-up. And so the question was, do we continue this on a permanent basis, making them an actual teaching position, but still a sub moving forward? When I asked the union if they were okay with this, I thought I would know their answer ahead of time because they've been asking for this for 3 years. So it's one thing, and I've listed other strategies we've tried to combat the sub shortage. And so in the notes I have for the board, I won't go through all those. We've done several things to get to this point, everything from increasing pay and everything else. We believe this is one more strategy to address that sub shortage. These would be members who could be members of the bargaining unit. They could earn tenure this way. Obviously, by design, we would hope that as they work towards tenure, as positions come up in the district, they would be some of the first ones looked at for a full-time teaching position, if that's what they wanted. Maybe someone really likes to do a different job every day and be a sub. I don't know if I've met too many of those individuals, but they could be out there. So that's the plan we're proposing. My timeline would be to bring it for the board's consideration in May and look to get those. We don't feel a sense of urgency to have those posted in June because we wouldn't anticipate people being excited to take those positions until the end of summer. We're guessing that people who would want those positions would still hold out and hope for a different type of teaching position in D92 or another district. And then by July, August, start saying, okay, this is a good deal. We're going to go for that. We just don't want to get people in the position and then lose them to other positions in other districts. But happy to answer any questions. I am looking for board feedback. I don't want to bring this back if there's concerns.
Would they be on the regular salary schedule?
Yep.
So they would be 180 days. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So they'd be 180 days. And so they would come to Institute days. They would participate in some form of PLC, right? Some of those questions have been answered or at least thought about.
PLCs, we're still working on how everybody teams with PLCs next year. But as far as everything else, I would just pretend they don't have substitute teacher as their title. They would be following the same schedule as any other teacher in the district. They just happen to not have a classroom of their own. They could go anywhere. And we are trying to, the job description is included in the board book for your review. We did feel the need to write it because we wanted to be very transparent with people that this is flexible. And there could be a day where if all the needs are covered, which doesn't happen very often, but if that was the case, there could be a paraprofessional one day who we're short, and we would ask them to do that on a very limited basis. We don't believe that's going to be a norm. The other piece we see is we see partnering initially with the two schools with the same schedule. So Oak Prairie and Ludwig have the same schedule, and the same for Walsh and Reed. So if there's a shortage in one of those two buildings, you could see those subs floating back and forth if they could cover that. We're not barring any need though, if all of our pieces are covered, or positions are covered, but we've got someone at Oak Prairie who does not have a need that day, and we have a need at Walsh. We're not opposed to having the Oak Prairie sub at Walsh. We just don't think that's going to be a norm. It could happen once in a blue moon.
You had mentioned, in the red, there's four, you're looking for 4 positions, right?
Looking to assign them one per building.
Right.
I don't like to use the word assign, but give them a home base.
From an average perspective, is 4 adequate to kind of get us out of the worry of not being able to get subs, or is that a little heavy?
The numbers we ran, and we did an analysis of our shortages this year.
Yeah, it says they have an average of
It's going to
2.
help, but I wouldn't say, I don't think this is going to cure it.
Sure.
But it will certainly help. Because you have some subs who they're retired teachers and can't sub a full-time, or some people like the idea of subbing because they can say yes or no when they wake up in the morning. Dave, I don't want to go to work, so I don't go to work. So it takes the pressure off those individuals, and it keeps us with people who are looking to get a foot in the door in education, full-time teaching position. This is a full-time teaching position, but their own classroom or their own role. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and
I do believe we're going to have days where we'll still have to have principals cover.
Yeah, because I glossed
wish we
over
could.
the 16.9 absences between teachers and paras
Yeah.
per day on average, right? So it certainly doesn't, 4 wouldn't obviously cover 17 staff.
Well, I gotta say, I know the biggest concern has always been how they would be brought into the fold, but I've always been an advocate for a full-time sub within a building. Having lived that 6 days a week, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. on a computer looking for positions. I think this gives those teachers that either are having difficulty finding a job, or in this market space, you get a better opportunity to kind of pick and choose your full-time sub. That's going to be somebody you have a lot more confidence going into a classroom environment is going to be in charge of that class for the full day. So as long as the union agrees that this is going to help them, and everything's good, I think it's a great start to, again, bring in new, that new teaching staff that potentially can come in. And if nothing else, you've got the consistency, you're going to have somebody here.
It's been a success in the first year, just as a pilot.
I love the idea. Right now, there's no way you can have too many people in the building.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I'm hopeful that we're able to fill it. I know at the high school, we've got some task force positions and we can't fill them. There's just not people to take them. So, I would say this is a great move. But we're still gonna have to recruit like heck to get other people in the building, because there's no guarantee this is gonna solve it.
To that point, Grant, of the individuals we have, the best we could do is there's a few that are hired this year as a subs under the sub certificate. And there's different qualifications. They aren't fully certified licensed teachers, but that's permissible through school code. We aren't going to do that for these. That's going to make it a higher bar. Some of our individuals are, but not all of them. So we will continue to use our people we have right now are great, even if they only have a sub certificate. There's a place for them next year. There'll still be need for that, but we only want to get fully licensed teachers for these subs.
I think my only thought is around kind of what Jake was saying, but if you're averaging 2 people out a day, do we look at maybe 5 instead of 1 per building? So you have 1 extra to float amongst buildings. It's just something to think about.
Not opposed to it. I would love to have the problem of, right now, our thought is 4.
Yep.
I think we could take it back and look at the numbers a little bit more closely and try. It's tough to use this year's numbers also because there were absences related to COVID
Yeah.
that were, my kids are home
Yeah.
and so I have to be home kind of thing. So it's something we could pull the trigger on. We could always increase it in September, in December, in March next year. We can always add a position. My initial recommendation would be to start with 4 and
Yep.
see how that goes.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Principals want to start at 4. I started at 2 and they got me up to 4. So I think 4 is probably a decent place to start. I think the Rover that could be something we go to relatively quickly next year. I'm very curious to see how our staffing flows as we come out of COVID. And people aren't staying home because their kids are quarantined and things like that. I'm looking forward to seeing some of that, knock on wood, normalcy.
That's a good point. But I think about the absences with kids home and things like that, that would change the numbers.
Yeah, because when I saw these numbers, I was actually kind of shocked. They seemed very high, but I didn't think about.
It's been a long year.
That, yeah. Well, I didn't think about kids being quarantined and, the parents having.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, staffing has been, I think somebody said earlier, staffing has just been everything in the past, during COVID, really.
It looks like just the second item under new business, our D92 Foundation for Educational Excellence. Are we talking about the board meeting? I mean, the board meeting in May?
So with the board's
Or the
permission,
golf outing?
yeah, so we've had some long time,
Okay.
they're a partner, they're not under us,
Okay.
but the Education Foundation has some long time people going off. They haven't had students in the district for a number of years. And so I thought if it's okay with the board, we bring them and recognize them at the May board meeting. That would be when they're about ready to transition off. It would also be a good time to recognize the new board coming on. We just want to, although they're partners, we aren't directly connected. At the same time, I think it's good for our board to see the faces of the people doing the hard work on that end too.
And then the golf outing is May.
It's not May,
Oh,
it's
it's not.
moved to June, which is awesome because that means all of our staff can participate. That's been a frustration in years past. It was always in May and teachers are teaching, they can't do the golf outing. So we're really encouraging teams of teachers, board members, whomever. The date is in
I
here
know.
somewhere and I
Does
don't
anybody
have
have
it,
the date?
but
June 9th?
June 9th, yes. So a week or so after school's out. It's a Thursday, should be a fun day. We encourage community members, staff, board members, everybody to jump in.
All right, Sandy, do we have any?
Yes.
Yes.
The boys are in the packet, yes.
Mhm.
As well as the student handbook review.
Oh, so we just, that's, all right, and then. Communications, I'm sorry, that's you, okay. All right, finally patiently awaiting our two, we have public comments, items that are not on the agenda. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to hear comments on topics not listed on the agenda. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the topic they will be addressing. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 3 minutes per speaker per agenda topic will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information, which will be used for any necessary board follow-up. All right, so the first we have Tom Williams. Thank you,
freezing.
and thanks for your
I'm freezing.
patience.
Sorry, can I pause for a second? It's cold in here. Can we adjust the
Adjust
thermostat?
it.
Because
Sorry.
it was hot earlier.
I am freezing, like my nose is cold, my tail is wet. Sorry.
We can fix that.
All right. A couple weeks ago, I signed a parent permission slip for my son to attend an 8th grade field trip to the Holocaust Museum. I felt this was an important historical topic and was happy to have him attend to learn about the social, political, historical circumstances that led to the Holocaust and the atrocities committed during this very dark period in history. My son came home from the field trip. We sat on the couch. I asked him about the field trip. What was the experience like? What did he learn? I was expecting him to talk about the terrible circumstances and the evil that occurred. I expected him to be shocked regarding the events of the Holocaust. To my surprise, he didn't actually talk about the Holocaust at all. Instead, he talked about the LGBTQ exhibit that the kids experienced during the field trip. Needless to say, I was a bit confused. So I asked more questions. Come to find out, the Holocaust Museum is running an LGBTQ exhibit. My son explained that the kids did go through the Holocaust exhibit, but then the staff at the museum gave the option to go through the LGBTQ exhibit as well. It's a shame that the Holocaust, which you would think is a large enough topic to consume the minds of our children for at least one day, would be enough. But instead, the LGBTQ exhibit was the only thing that he talked about. I asked him if he knew anything about this LGBTQ exhibit before going to the field museum, and his answer was no. In fact, none of the students had any idea that this was part of the field trip. My assumption was none of the parents did either. I know I certainly didn't. I took it up with the school administration, both the social studies teacher, Sue Forcash, Tim Arnold, asked a couple questions and expressed my concerns. First question was, why were none of the parents notified of the field trip permission form on the field trip permission form that there was an LGBTQ exhibit that the kids would be attending? My second question was, who was responsible for deviating from the Holocaust topic and allowing the kids to view this exhibit without parental permission? Third question, who was in charge of organizing this trip and why weren't they aware that the museum had such an exhibit? Fourth question, why wasn't this included on the parent permission form? I got no answers from Sue Forcash. I only got pushback, was told nobody was there. Nobody knew there was an LGBTQ exhibit at the museum. Then I was put on the defensive with questions like, what's wrong with the kids going through that exhibit? And then I was told that my son didn't even go through the LGBTQ exhibit, which was wrong. His group was taken through that exhibit. I then talked to Tim Arnold, and he assured me that he would look into the matter, which he did, and we spoke later this afternoon. No clear answers, which I expected. I did a little digging myself, and here's what I found in just a few minutes of looking. The LGBTQ exhibit had been running since October of last year and runs through May. The exhibit is posted on the museum's homepage, so it's obvious it would be up during the class field trip. To say nobody knew that the exhibit was going to be there was either a lie or a dereliction of duties. The Holocaust Museum has turned into an LGBTQ social activist headquarters. You're probably wondering why I'm saying this. Well, the museum has a new director of education. Her name is Leah Rauch. Leah is an outspoken member and activist of the LGBTQ plus community and self-proclaimed queer woman. She wrote that herself. Leah wrote and posted an article on the Holocaust Museum's homepage titled LGBTQ plus Kids Are Under Attack, where she goes on a rant about state legislation.
I just gotta have you wrap it up. I'm so sorry.
Yep, that's fine. From 4 different states that she's not in agreement with, among other areas she advocates for. So I suggest the board read her article. I have just a few suggestions for the board and the school administration. Do not send kids on a field trip and only partially inform parents of the topic being covered. 2, do not expose our kids to LGBTQ activists like Leah Rauch. 3, keep the sort of social activism out of our schools and focus on academics. 4, no longer consider the Holocaust Museum to be a field trip destination for our children. And number 5, choose another way to teach the Holocaust without weaving LGBTQ activism into the agenda. Thank you.
Go over and I'm sorry, I'm bad at that. Okay, all right, and then we have Tammy Hayes. Minutes, Tammy.
Okay. Hi, my name is Tammy Hayes. Some of you might recognize me. I've actually had 4 children go through the D92 district. My youngest is now a junior in high school, and I'm here because I was alerted to something that another parent has shared that their 6th grader did in connections class. Now, connections class was around when my 4 went through. They all did it. 2 thought it was okay, 2 hated it. It is what it is. It was kind of a touchy-feely class. However, this particular year, the 6th graders, 11 and 12-year-olds were given a woman to study for Women's History Month. The kids were not allowed to choose a person who inspired them, nor were they encouraged to, as far as I understand. So it's my understanding that women were handed out. Some of the women were Michelle Obama, Rosa Parks, Serena Williams, Naomi Wolf, Mother Teresa, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Malaya, I believe her name is. But one of the women was Malcolm Michaels Jr. If this name surprises you, it's because Malcolm made himself infamous with his chosen name of Marsha P. Johnson. The issue with this woman of history is the life of which this human chose to live, not holding a steady job ever, or a permanent residence, AKA a homeless prostitute. I outlined here, this is from a website that the mom had found. It's wams.nyhistory.org. It was, quote, this is what is on the website. It was difficult for Marsha to find work. She realized that the fastest way to make money was to hustle. This means working as a sex worker. The work, due to stigmatization of sex workers, was incredibly dangerous. Marsha was often left alone with strangers in hotel rooms and cars. Sometimes the strangers were violent. On multiple occasions, clients pulled guns on Marsha. Once she was even shot. Now, Malcolm really did not become famous until he was part of the Stonewall Uprising, a riot that occurred in 1969, where she is credited with starting the riot. Of course, some say that she didn't. However, she was definitely seen climbing a pole and throwing a rock through a police car window. The problem with this situation is this. This is the woman that you want our kids to study. We can back this up a little bit. I'm a 70s baby. I'm an 80s child. And I was part of the world that it didn't matter who I slept with. It only mattered who I was, what I could accomplish, what I could do. When you make a 6th grader read and research someone whose entire life was based on what she could do for gay activism, you are telling this child, you're teaching this child to look into what that means. What does it mean to be gay? It means that you're having sexual relations with someone. Sexual relations should not be something that is being discussed with 11 and 12-year-olds. You need to think about who we are asking our children to study about. It's not a subject for 6th graders. For 11 and 12-year-olds, they do not need to be looking into someone's sexual habits. That's all the word gay means. Gay means how you like to have sex. Understand that it's not a lifestyle. It is literally a choice of who you want to go to bed with. Please, please stop teaching our children this stuff. Thank you. All right, so I need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make it.
Grant.
You have to say why.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the following topics are presented to the board. Oh, no. No? Oh, the board may enter closed session for the purpose of 5 ILCS 122C subsections 1 and 2.
Now you need 2 motions to go.
2 motions.
Washington.
Berkeley.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Thank you for attending.
We're out of closed session.
Nobody's out there.
The only thing we're voting on is minutes, correct? We're not voting on the two things that we pulled because we aren't there yet, right?
Gave guidance.
Correct.
So do you might want to, after we vote in the minutes, technically table those two action items for a future meeting.
Yep, okay. Okay, I need a motion to approve closed session minutes as read in closed session.
Swice.
Stop. Oh,
Roll call, please.
Dopke.
Gurecki.
Washington.
Swice.
Middleton.
Furkaluk.
Yes, Ralph. I assume those all as ayes. Minutes are approved. I need a motion to table the two personnel items for Sinram and Ceramic.
Dopke.
Swice.
All right, we don't have to vote on a table, that's it. Just need a first and a second. Right, Tim?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's correct. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do we want to clarify just for the recording that this is the April 19th meeting at the end and it's
After
11
closed
o'clock-
session.
11 o'clock after closed session. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's good to have and tagged on the recording. All right, now I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Middleton.
Swice.
Middleton second.
Swice Middleton.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Ayes have it. We are adjourned.